Greetings, greetings, family. We are live. Welcome, welcome to the Sista Shanice Show. We are absolutely delighted, as always, every Wednesday to be joining you, our wonderful, wonderful family. So we want to rise up. We want to rise up the entire family that's watching us right now, wherever you're watching us from in the world. We welcome you. We appreciate, love you. We celebrate you. We hope that you've been having an absolutely fantastic, blacktastic day. Sister Shanice in the house, and as you can see, I'm alongside some wonderful, wonderful guests. And so we're just going to give you all a moment or two to come through our doors, and then I'll have our guests introduce themselves in full. But for now, we'll just go around the panel and ask them to just say hi and a few words by way of opening, and then we'll do the formal introductions in a short while when more of you are in the house. So remember, family, as you come in the house, let us know where you're going to be watching, where you're watching us from. Are you viewing us from here in the UKKK, or are you viewing us from somewhere else in the world? Tell us where you're watching us from, and we welcome you. Rise up, Brother Ged, please, big up the family.
I appreciate you, sis, and hotep to the Galaxy family. It's a pleasure to be sitting here with you and with Dr. Abu Ratata, who I have immense respect for and honor. And it's also a pleasure to be joined by a sister from under my own heart, to be quite frank, who has no issue dealing with systemic, systematic, and institutional racism. My name's Brother Gab.
Welcome, Brother Gabe. And you're not on Galaxy Afiri right now. You're on the Sister Shanice Show. But that's okay. So, as you probably picked up from that, family, Brother Gabe is a familiar caller to us on the Big G Galaxy Afiri, the only de-brainwashing station. Let me allow Dr. Abu, our resident panel member, to just greet the family.
Well, greetings to Brother Gabe. Sister, Dr. Vivian, and yourself, Sister Shanice, and to our wonderful family them that is taking in this vibration, it's all about us doing for us. So we just give thanks for life that we can share some of our experience to the wider community. Good.
Vudum, Dr. Abu, as always, an honor and a pleasure to have you on board. And we look forward to your input in the discussion that we're going to be having today. Let's welcome Dr. Vivian. Rise up, sis.
Thank you so much, Hotep. Thank you to Sister Shanice for inviting me tonight on this very important event, very important subject for us all. And to Brother Geb and Dr. Abu as the panelists, and to our audience listening in. Thank you ever so much. I know this is going to be an inspirational evening, so I'm very much looking forward to it, and it's a real pleasure to be part of this event.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Vivian. We're going to be inspired by your story. We're going to be inspired by the story of Dr. Brother Geb as well, whose head top I'm looking at right now. Wagwan. We want to see you. Long time we are waiting to see our Brother Geb, who's a regular caller to the Big G. So, family, let's appreciate love him. And Dr. Abu, how has your strong been? Family in the chat, we say strong rather than weak because words sound power. How's your strong been, Dr. Abu?
Well, ups and down, up and down. We're not flatlined. There are a lot of lots go through the flatline stage, but it's life. It's life, and link up doing some work with some young people and things, so it even make it more important. You understand? So those are the things them that we have to look forward to. You understand? To work with our people, to work with especially the young people. You understand? Because it keep you alive. Because they keep you on your toe. When you're around young people, you a lot of energy. You understand? So you have to prepare for that. You understand? You know.
Mm-hmm,
And at the
mm-hmm.
same time, you know, one of our dear Sister Natalie, gone on to the ancestors. So all of that we have to hold fast. You know. So I give thanks because I'm alive here talking to you. So any other things to me is bonus.
Rise up, Dr. Abu. Yes, indeed. From that line is going up and down. We're still alive. But anytime it's flat, we're out of here. So rise up, Dr. Abu. Okay, so family, as you come in, please do greet us in the chat. Let's see what greetings we've got. Well, Ace99 is saying, finally, you heard me. You're now talking about the UKKK. I thought you'd like this show, Brother Ace. Brother Ace, regular listener to the Sister Shanice show, and he's always blazing in the chat. You know, what about what's happening here in the UKKK? You want to talk about Africa all the time. So this one's for you tonight, Brother Ace. Sister Afrojamo, rise up yourself. She's rising up our esteemed panel and myself. And she's rising up everybody in the chat worldwide as well. She's watching us from Ghana. Lucky you. How is Ghana right now, Sister Afrojamo? And we want to rise up Montu as well. He's asking a question, or she's asking a question. Is institutionalized racism still alive in the UK? Ask the Afghans abandoned by the English they worked with. Ooh, up and down comments from the Home Office. Typing from Ghana, another viewer from Ghana. Welcome, welcome. Well, we're going to be having a bit of a discussion today, and you decide whether or not institutionalized racism still exists here in the UKKK. And so family, as you come in, let us know where you're viewing us from. Welcome, Cassandra, welcome. And you say, we say that, but when are we going to do OT? What's OT? Someone enlighten me there. And rising up, our sister Kai from the Diaspora channel. Absolutely pleasure to have you in the house. Ras Bloomfield, absolute pleasure to have you in the house as well. And, family, come on, let us know where you're viewing us from. Montu is saying the English invented racism. I'm going to agree with you on that, most definitely. Yoga, welcome. Greetings. And Casey, we welcome you as well to this platform. And she's greeting all of the panelists and said, oh, my friend, my coach, my sister Sheila, where is she? Oh, yeah, Sister Sheila had to work tonight. Can you believe it? She had to work tonight. So we are not going to have a wonderful storytelling tonight, but she will be back with us next strong, okay? All righty. Okay, so as you're coming through the door, we are going to start the discussion right now because people who are going to be watching on the replay are going to want to hear us go straight into the debate. All right, but as the family are coming in, please do let us know where you're viewing us from. And for those of you already viewing, let people know that we are now live, okay? And also, just to mention that to those of you who gave to the appeal last strong, if you remember last strong, we were appealing on behalf of St. Vincent and Haiti. I want to thank all of you that have been giving and have continued to give. You know, the response was amazing. When we came in, we were on about $500 and something, but by the time we finished the show last strong, we were up to 1,223, up from about 8 donors to about 38 donors. So thank you all so much. But if you haven't given, but you still want to give, you still can go to their GoFundMe page. So you go to GoFundMe.com, search for locals, and that's locals and the number 4 for locals. And what will come up is the Sandy Bay, Kilinargo's appeal for St. Vincent, okay? And those of you who were in tuned last strong, you will know, you would have heard the story from those who were on the ground at the time when the when the volcano actually erupted, yeah? And you'll also be very aware that this particular indigenous group have a history of being ignored by their governments. And so we are the ones who have been supporting them, and they're looking at us for support as well. Also, family, do get in touch if you want to support Haiti. I've been getting daily reports from our team on the ground out there, and family, they are saving lives. One of our team members actually pulled 24 people from a fallen school building 11 days after the earthquake. 11 days after the earthquake, they pulled 24 people alive from the wreckage. And then I had another report, let me see if I can quickly get it as well, of another member of a team at a different site. And these are people who we're supporting, family. And these are reports that we're getting live from Haiti. We had reports today with the money that we sent down 2 days ago. They actually bought 300 5-gallon liters of water, fresh water, that they're taking to the people in a mountainous area. There's bags of rice, there's bags of what looks like cornmeal. I've seen that they bought and lots more. And I've also seen a lorry where we had farmers bringing loads of big hands of banana, stacking it on the back of the lorry. Our finances covered the transportation costs of all of that. And one of our brothers, we found out, let me see if I can quickly find the story that they shared with me about that particular incident. He was actually here it is, our brother, Reynold Dimanche. He saved 13 people's lives. He was pulling them one by one from out of the wreckage. And the last one that he pulled out was a baby. And after he pulled out the baby and passed the baby over, the house actually collapsed on him. Everyone thought he was dead, but they still rushed him to the hospital. He was in a coma for a few days, but after a few days, he came back to life. I mean, these are the stories that we're hearing from our team on the ground in Haiti that we are literally financing and supporting. So please hook me up if you want to support. So in fact, I will be posting Brother Sean's contact details in this chat, so that if you want to contact him, if you want to give directly to our brother, you'll be able to make contact with him on WhatsApp, and you too can get the stories live and direct from Haiti, from those on the ground doing the real work. Okay, so I've just posted our brother Sean's contact details in the chat. Please make a note of it. Please do support. Okay, family, remember to give us a thumbs up and a like as you come in as well. Right, let's go over to today's topic for discussion, which is around institutionalized racism and individual racism. And I'm just going to open up by way of, giving you a bit of a definition from my perspective of institutionalized racism and racial discrimination and the roots of it. And then I'm going to hand over to my guest. So the roots of racism, what I would suggest is that the vast majority of us actually recognize that colonialism actually led to racism. Our enslavement actually led to racism and racial discrimination. And it's also at the root of xenophobia and other related intolerances. So at a macro level, racism actually manifests itself today in what we call colonialism. People of African descent, wherever we are in the world, and the indigenous people around the world still remain victims of colonialism and former colonization. Although we're supposed to be independent and free, the colonial structures that exist, the matrix within which all of the institutions and the organizations operate, including so-called democracy and our so-called independent governments, all still very part of this long arm of colonialism, which controls, our countries wherever we are in the world, and, is today controlling the poverty-stricken situation that most of our people find themselves in around the world on a macro level. And you can view that as, say, a form of racism which we define today on my radio show of anti-African hatred. So, you know, when we talk about racism, we're talking about anti-African hatred at an institutional level and at an individual level. And if you look at that anti-African hatred at the extreme level, then we can recognize it as genocide, as apartheid, that all of these actually constitutes racism and anti-African hatred, which results in what has resulted in what we define today as one of the greatest crimes ever committed against humanity, the genocide and the enslavement of us as African people. So we are only too aware of what the extremities of anti-African hatred can actually look like, has looked like, and what we have suffered and experienced as a people as a result of it. And so, you know, as we talk about racism, I think we will all agree that it's man-made. It's a concept that has been created by Europeans. As I said, during the years of enslavement, it was to justify their oppression and suppression of us as Africans because of our race. Okay, and it's also used today even to try and justify a claim of white supremacy, which I totally do not subscribe to at all. Because if we look at the definition of white supremacy, it's actually the belief that the white race is inherently superior to other races and that white people should have control over other races. And that is certainly something that I don't subscribe to at all, because, you know, prior to the invasions and the colonizations of us as a people, when we reigned supreme and when we reigned independently, we had our great cities and our great kingdoms and our great empires that we ran successfully all by ourselves. So this idea an ideology of white supremacy just does not sit well with me at all. And by us giving that energy, it's as if we're giving it life, and it doesn't deserve any life at all during these times, you know, because there is not a white race that's superior than the African race. The African race, the original people, you know, the founders of civilization and the creators of civilizations, the ones that created that which is. If supremacy is going to be argued, has to be to the ones who invented agriculture, who created, you know, mining and the wonderful, huge, colossal sculptures that we see all around the world. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to do so because I really want to hear from our guests. But so very briefly, a couple of other terms. Racism, in terms of institutionalized racism, it's what's actually created the disparity of treatment by all institutions that govern our lives in the UKKK, and also, you know, govern the lives of our people wherever they are in the world if they are part of the former colonial structures. Yeah, so it's institutionalized racism that's creating that disparity, that ill treatment and mistreatment of us as a people. And there are so many examples that I could give of that within the UKKK. For example, the disparities between our treatment and the treatment of non-African people in the criminal justice system. You know, our treatment across all the public services. Okay, and when we talk about racism, let me give you a definition from the Oxford Dictionary. It says it's prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. You know, that is just so soft, isn't it? It doesn't go anywhere near defining what we're calling anti-African hatred. But in a Webster dictionary, it's saying that it's a belief that a race is fundamentally determinant of human traits and their capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. What a load of nonsense there as well. So it's so important that we have our own definitions. Here we have a definition from them of institutionalized racism, which it says it's also known as systemic racism, a form of racism that is embodied through laws and regulations which society or an organization, within a society or an organization. It can lead to such issues as discrimination in the criminal justice system, employment, housing, healthcare, political power and education, among other issues. That is getting a little bit closer to a real definition. So, you know, some of us, nevertheless, do struggle to actually see how racism is actually presenting itself on a daily basis. You know, they struggle to see racism in the wider context, struggle to see discrimination happening on a daily basis. But we're going to be having that discussion today because there are those of us who have actually experienced direct racism on at an individual level. And we're going to be hearing a couple of those cases today in our discussion. And there are those of us who do the research on a regular basis and are very aware of the extent to which institutions are discriminating against us as a people. I'm getting a little feedback, so if that's your mic, please do turn it off, everyone, except Brother Geb, who I'm going to invite now to share with us his experience of racism. But before he does that, Brother Geb, please introduce yourself to the Sista Shanice Show family.
Hotep, sis. So those of you who don't know me, I am referred to as Brother Geb. I embrace that name. It was a name that was given to me recently, and I embrace it. I embrace it more than my birth name, my slave name, that was given to me over 50 years ago. I typically don't like to give my age, but I don't mind telling you that I'm 57. And I can tell you that in those 57 years, I've not had any respite from racism. I cannot remember a day past the age of 4 when I have not dealt with, seen, and been faced with racism. It starts in London, England, in West Norwood, on a road called St. Denis Road, when I was crossing the road or standing on the pavement, and my mother and I were crossing the road, and back in would have been 1968, a police car, or a panda, it was commonly known, drove down the road and said to my mother, "Get back on the curb, you coon." And I remember that as sure as I'm sitting here at age 4. And I remember looking at my mother's face and seeing the look of fear, a look that I've never seen in my life on my mother's face, and looking at the white man, the beast, the devil, that referred to my mother as a coon, dressed up in a uniform that represents the country, the crown, the Metropolitan Police. So at that time, I learned at 4 that there's something incredibly wrong with them, not us. And I've carried that belief system now for 54 years, 52 years. That belief system has not changed. And so throughout my lifetime, I've worked in many institutions. I'm just going to name them off. I've worked as a correctional officer for the Hampden County Sheriff's Department, where I saw our people being locked up and treated like slaves by the beast. But I also saw us treat our people like slaves on behalf of the beast. I then came back to the UK, and I ran my own business. I ran an accident management company in London for many years. It was very successful, and managed to work for myself and do okay. Eventually, I came back to the US, and I decided that I wanted to do something for our people. So I understood the power of the mind and decided that's where I wanted to work. I eventually obtained my master's degree, which makes me a qualified psychotherapist. But knowing that if we operate in a Eurocentric framework, that would not help our people, I opened up a clinic the only one of its kind in the state of Massachusetts, a all-black mental health clinic with all black therapists, with all black patients or clients, with all black doctors, with all black nurses. And the one thing that I've asked them all to do was to understand the framework of post-traumatic slave syndrome, because I believe understanding that framework is the way that we could validate our people and undo the mental deconstruction that's been done to us and to put us back to who we were pre-slavery. I also, at the same time, maintained an independent job as a probation officer working for the criminal justice system in the state of Massachusetts. And I just want to give you the backdrop. The state of Massachusetts has 7 million people. Out of that 7 million, it only has approximately 1,200 probation officers. Out of that 1,200, it has approximately 100 people of color, and the whole spectrum of people of color fits into that. And out of that, there's less than 50 black probation officers. I was one of them. I saw this as a very valuable position because we, as you know, write reports for judges and we make recommendations for judges. And in my framework, we actually hold hearings for judges. So I was able to use that position and be a gatekeeper for us and not them. And so although that was my mission, I still treated white people fairly with equity. But I made sure that we were getting the treatment that we would not receive if they went in front of a white probation officer. One day I woke up and the spirit said to me, go to work dressed like you should be dressing. So I pulled out one of my dashikis from my wardrobe and I wore it to work. As I walked into the building, every black and white person looked at me as if I lost my mind. I made my way to my office. I felt like the man I should feel like, totally liberated. By the time I walked into the courtroom to present to the judge turned around and almost fell off the bench. And so I presented to the judge, went back to my office, and by the time I left the courtroom to my office, there was an email that said, who gave me permission to wear that dashiki? And I pondered that question for a while, and I responded saying, who gave you permission to wear a shirt and tie? Presumably you. So presumably I gave myself that permission. That one incident, which was about 10 years ago, is what led to my resignation about a month ago. So I spent the rest of those 10 years challenging a racist system where our people were being mistreated. And when I say mistreated, I mean mistreated. We all know about the school to prison pipeline. We all know about the disparities. We all know that when a white policeman looks at a 14 or a 13-year-old boy, they don't see a 13 or 14-year-old boy. In their warped mental deranged mind, they see a big grown adult male. This is how their psyche works. Anyway, I'm just going to move along to say that very recently, I sent several emails to my colleagues, mostly white, 2 black, and the emails were on white fragility, videotapes embedded in an email. The emails was on white fragility, internalized racial oppression and microaggressions. And I wanted to show them this in order to educate them, because I believe just like when we educate ourselves, we will change behavior. My belief system was if I can educate them, perhaps I could change their behavior. If we change how we think, we change how we feel, we change how we present, we change how we behave. That's the whole idea of psychotherapy. So when I sent these emails out, it clearly stated, I hope that you will find these educational. The response 7 months later was a letter from the Commissioner of Probation, the highest ranking person in probation, to say that I was under investigation for sending out inappropriate emails. When I received that letter, it didn't name what the investigation was about. So my first thought or feeling was, I wonder if somebody went into my email system and sent some pornographic, something sick, something sadistic. When I realized that wasn't the case, and I realized I was being investigated for this stuff, I had a sense of relief, but at the same time, I knew I was going to have a fight. And I see my time is kind of running, so I'm going to speed this up. So long story short, they had an investigation. Now, everything that they asked me in the investigation was, do I walk through the office clicking my pen? Do I walk through the office eating crisps, as we call them in England? Here they call them potato chips. Now, the reason why they resorted to that line of questioning was they had nothing. Nevertheless, they decided to give me a written warning. So when they gave me a written warning, I pondered this for a while, and I said, it's time that I leave this system. And sis, if you wouldn't mind putting up my resignation letter. But in a nutshell, I wrote to the chief probation officer to let him know. Sis, would you be kind enough to read it? Ah, awesome. I don't know if you could. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, hearing you fine. And
okay.
I've just taken myself off mute.
So, yes, would you read it for me, sis?
Sure. So this is the resignation letter that our brother tendered. It says, good morning, John. I have endured years of racism working at the MPS.
Massachusetts Probation Service.
I have not been afforded the same treatment as my white colleagues. I am also aware, unless I behave like a good N-word,
a good nigger,
I will not be accepted, nor will I be permitted to advance my career. Each day working feels more and more oppressive. Bringing these issues to light will only cause another deliberate attack on my character. I choose to tender my resignation, effective immediately. Wow.
So thanks, sis. So I think as we move on, we will talk about what we need to do as a people to deal with the issue of racism. But let me just say this. I want to be blatantly honest and say that the 7 probation officers that made a complaint on me, 2 were Black. And they are the ones that offended me the most. And so I'm hoping during this conversation, we talk about internalized racial oppression, something that wasn't framed at the beginning of the show, and what that means and what it has done to us as a people, and how we are the answer and not them.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Brother Geb, for sharing with us your experience of working in the probationary service sector. And those statistics are absolutely horrendous. And it speaks volumes. But, you know, what I should ask, you know, of the population of 7 million, you said there were about 1,200 probation officers. Of the population, what percentage are of African descent, would you suggest?
Well, I would say that the number suggests 30%.
About 30% of the 7 million are of African descent. And in the probation service, those who go through the judiciary, what percentage would you say of the, if they're 30% of the population, what percentage would you say that they are of the judiciary system there?
Oh, well, without a doubt, you know, we all know that that percentage is exponential. So we're talking in the order of about 80% plus, if not high 90s.
Wow.
And you have to understand, because you went there, that the people sitting in judgment is the beast himself,
Wow.
or the beast herself. So the percentage of Black judges, they're there, but they may as well not be there. And because of internalized racial oppression, which we'll talk about, it's pointless that they are there.
Wow. 30% African population, but they represent 80, pushing 90% of the criminal justice system. And here we have, you know, the sentencing, which, what's your opinion of the sentencing? I mean, this is in America. We'll talk about the situation here in the UKKK as well. But is the sentencing fair? What is the kind of sentencing that's happening to our people in the region where you were working, my brother, from your experience?
So I know you know the answer to that question, but just to appease you, of course, the sentencing isn't fair. So there was a Harvard law study that was recently done. And let me just say that we as people, Africans, we don't need a study to tell us what's going on, right? But just for argument's sake, their own study tells us that there is a huge sentencing disparity. And the reason for that, of course, is racism. The reasons for that is it's hard to find a jury comprised of us, or even a jury that has enough of us on there to swing a vote. So even if there's one or two, if you're bold enough, you may go against the mainstream, but oftentimes we're not bold enough. So we have all white juries. And so from start to finish, the process is flawed. But again, I don't need to tell Africans that. We know that.
Yes, we do, my brother. And, you know, we're hearing about racism in the USA, there in that particular county or region where my brother works. And, you know, we know, as you're saying, you know, that's very much the same across the whole of the United States. And it's the same here in the UKKK. We've had reports done here as well. There was a recent one that even David Lammy done, and it was looking at the disparity of treatment. It's right across the board. It's historic, and it still continues today. In the criminal justice system here in the UK, the treatment and the mistreatment as us as Africans, you know, we fare the worst in their criminal justice system. In fact, you know, we've come to the conclusion that their injustice system is basically designed to criminalize us as a people. It starts with the disparities of stop and search on the streets, you know, huge overrepresentation of our young people being stopped and searched and needlessly arrested and then criminalized through the system. I'm looking at disproportionate, looking at a report here of how the Metropolitan Police disproportionately used stop and search powers on our people in London. And the report was even saying that our population is actually targeted more so than the white population. And these are official statistics. Let me just drop a couple of statistics on you here. When the report was done, it said that stop and search had increased by 19% among London's black minority population, which is targeted more than the white populations. And when they did the analysis of the data, they said that although we as Africans only make up 15.6% of London's population, sure, that's wrong. They grossly underestimate our presence here, but that's okay. Let's go with their figures. They say, although we make up only 15.6% of London's population, while white people make up 59% of the population, in 2018, 43% of searches were of black people, while only 35% were of white people. These were the figures that, the London Mayor's Policing Crime Department themselves were actually putting out. So imagine if there was independent reporting. So basically 43% of the 151,102 people stopped and searched by London police were in fact Africans, So, and it starts there when it comes to the criminal justice system. And so in America, so here in the UKKK. But, let's now go over to our sister, Dr. Vivian, who is going to share with us her experience. Actually, before I go there, let me just have a quick look in the chat and hear from some of our panel members, and then I will be bringing in our sister, Dr. Vivian. So let's hear what our brother Ace is saying. Our brother Ace is saying the usual case, like here in the UKKK, as I always say, the devil can't investigate hell. Hey, I like that one. The devil can't investigate hell. For real. So while we have them presiding over our cases, it's a foregone conclusion that we are going to be harshly treated, especially within a society which we know to be, and within institutions that we know to be institutionally racist as well. Let's have a look at what Sheriff is saying. He's saying, Mr. Williams, he's agreeing with something that's been said by Mr. Wilfred there. And Muta calls those in the Caribbean and Africa bourses slaves. I call them gatekeepers for the demons. So our brother Wilfred, I'm sure, has commented on what our brother Geb is calling, internalized discrimination of some sort. So N is saying, tell it, brother Geb, rise up, family, respect to the panelists, love, Sister Shanice, peace and love, brother Nat. Rise up, brother Nat, enough respect and love to you. Brother Nat is one of our presenters on the Big G Galaxy, Alphiwi. And let's have a look at some more comments. Ace was saying, nothing surprising there. There are many black Judases like people among us. I always warn about them kind. It's a major, major problem that has existed within our race for millenniums, and it's a problem that we've never dealt with. And it's the reason why we are where we are. It's the reason why Africa, is in the situation that it is. And it's the reason why we are, in the state that we're in, wherever we are in the world. Those traitors among us who are prepared to side with those who don't look like us, don't like us, to our detriment. So GBL is saying great resignation letter, I think that is. And Montu is saying commanding culture, I agree with the psychological warfare in schools and work. Okay, let me go over to our doctor, and I'll take some more comments from the chat as we go through. So as our brothers and sisters talk, please do contribute to the discussion in the chat room. Let's go over to our beautiful sister. Please introduce yourself to the family, Dr. Vivian.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Vivian Lifestyle Sisse. A little bit about me. I'm one of 7 children. I was born in London and to Jamaican immigrant parents of the Windrush generation. I was brought up in London, but I have lived in Brighton for the last 41 years. I decided to make Brighton my home when in 1980, I came to the University of Sussex to study biochemistry. And I have no regrets there. And I've worked for the NHS. I did work for the NHS for 34 years as a clinical biochemist and a senior manager. Now, my fight for racial justice started in the NHS, started in 2003, when the Department of Health gave the direction to all NHS organisations that they should set up Black and minority ethnic networks to progress race equality in the workplace. And I decided, I put myself forward to lead on the Black and Minority Ethnic Network, or the BME network, for the trust that I work with. Now, the direction from the Department of Health came about because of the Macpherson report, investigation into the death of the Black teenager, Stephen Lawrence. And we all know that he concluded that what happened was partly due to institutional racism in the police. But he didn't just say the police. He said it is the way in which the public sector does its business. So the response of the NHS was, well, okay, as part of the public sector, we've got to do something, so we're going to set up BME networks. But of course, they were never serious about addressing institutional racism, and set up BME networks was no more than a tick box exercise. In 2005, the BME network in Brighton decided that we would lead on a regional BME network for the whole of the southeast coast of England. That was 27 NHS organisations. And as chair of that organisation, I carried out the first race equality review in the NHS. In fact, I carried it out because it was a challenge by the stranger. He tried to dissuade me from getting involved in this agenda. I was one of 11 biochemists in my department. I was only the second Black person to ever work in that department. I had every opportunity. They gave me every opportunity, and he said to me, leave it for somebody else. But I just knew it was the right thing for me to do. When he realized that I was determined to pursue the agenda, he gave me one bit of advice. He said, if you're going to come at this agenda, come at it based on the evidence. Vivian, you're a PhD scientist. Show us the evidence that Black and minority ethnic people are discriminated against by the NHS. So I took up the challenge, and I wrote to the 27 chief execs in the Southeast Coast region. I did a freedom of information request, and I basically said to them, please send me your information data. For example, I asked for all their disciplinary data over 5 years by ethnicity. So how many Black people have you disciplined? How many white people have you disciplined? How many white other people have you disciplined? And I did a number of measures, and they sent me the data. It took me 8 months to analyze it. And I produced the first race equality review report. Sister Shanice, could you show the document, please? So the report, the review document, you're on mute. The review document was published, which should come up shortly, was published by the Health Service Journal. And it got the centre spread, the front cover, and the editorial. Here was the evidence that clearly showed that the Black and minority ethnic staff working, so those bars are all the different things that we looked at. And on the next page, it actually says, minority staff get worse still. If we go down the page, Sister Shanice. So it was centre spread. So it said we got the worst deal. A bit further down, we got the worst deal on jobs, pay, and grievances. The report was also picked up by Channel 4 News, and this was in August 2008. There was the data showing clearly that Black and minority ethnic staff are discriminated against on the grounds of their race. Thank you very much. If we could take that down now. So what was the report showing? It showed if you were a Black and minority ethnic person working in the NHS, you were 2 to 3 times more likely to be disciplined than your white employee, your white colleague. You were many times more likely to take out a grievance. You were paid on a lower scale within the NHS, so that there was an overrepresentation at the lower scales and an underrepresentation at the higher scales. You were less likely to be appointed from a shortlist. So you're shortlisted for the job, so it means that you've got the qualifications, you've been considered suitable to have the job, but your white colleagues pip you to the post 2 to 3 times more likely to get the job than you. Now, we know this, we all know it, you know, but it's totally different when you actually present the evidence and say, so no more nonsense, no more telling me I've got a chip on my shoulder, no more telling me it's my emotion, no more telling me I'm sensitive. The evidence shows you're racially discriminated against me, and you're doing so because of the institutional racism that exists. The Health Service Journal then asked me for my template, and they got a firm to actually carry out the same exercise that I did in the Southeast Coast for every single NHS trust in the country. At that time in 2008, it was 232 trusts, and it showed exactly the same picture. On every level, Black and minority ethnic staff were being discriminated against. Disciplinary grievances, job, you name it, we got a worse deal. So in 2010, we disbanded the regional network and we established the national BME network called the NHS BME network. And it's a fact, we have been a thorn in the side of the system with regards to the institutional racism in the NHS. Now, over the years, the NHS has introduced numerous initiatives that it said would address the disadvantages faced by Black and minority ethnic staff in the system, and every single initiative has failed. In 2015, it introduced an initiative, which is still the initiative in place, called the Workforce Race Equality Standard, the WRES, RES. So the Workforce Race Equality Standard is where every year, every single NHS trust has to send data to the centre, NHS England, for 9 different measurements. One of the measurements is the number of staff that they discipline by ethnicity. So they have to send in data, how many Black staff have you disciplined, how many white staff have you disciplined, and it gets analysed. And every single year since 2016, when the first results were published, it shows that Black staff are anything between 2 and 4 times more likely to be disciplined. And it showed that if you're a white member of staff, you're going to get the job, you're going to be appointed from a shortlist at least 2 to 3 times more likely than a Black member of staff. Every year for the last 6 years, 5 years the data has been available, 6 years since the programme came in place, this is the results that have been published. In fact, when the first results were published in 2006, Channel 5 News, 6:30 p.m, actually asked me if I would come on and be interviewed about the findings. So, of course, it was my response, well, the NHS knows that it discriminates against its Black and minority ethnic staff, but it's been in denial about the institutional racism for decades. So, of course, that went down like a lead balloon. You see, as a network, we were active in challenging the system, but we talked about this internalized, oppression or racism, whatever you call it, is that in the NHS, you have Black leaders, you have Black people, Black and minority ethnic people in influential positions. But to them, my colleagues and I that are part of the network, we're seen to be too radical. Our approach is divisive, it's disruptive. And we've been told over the years that what we need to do to enable us to get the change that we want, we need to win hearts and minds of the white people who are in a position of power. For somehow, their hearts and minds, if we can convince them, then we're going to get justice. But you see, those same people are what we call the gatekeepers. Of course they know that what's happened to us is not good. But for them, it's all about self-preservation and self-promotion. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, it's really important that they get their British Empire awards. You know, that's the most important thing for them. So they mustn't rock the boat, or they won't get their CBEs and their MBEs and their ABEs. Yeah, they know it, but that's what they work towards. And if you didn't believe that the NHS was institutionally racist, and if they were telling us that we were talking nonsense, then last year when the pandemic hit, and our people were dropping like flies, Black and minority ethnic staff disproportionately affected by the pandemic, because there was rumours that they were placed in the high-risk areas, they were the people that weren't getting appropriate PPE, and even then the government tried to cover up. When Public Health England, for the first time, Public Health England produces a report that actually says some of the observations that we're seeing with regards to the impact of this pandemic on Black and minority ethnic people actually might be exposing some of the institutional racism that existed. What did the government do? It withheld that section of the report, published Public Health England without that section, and only published it when there was an uproar. Because once again, it thought it was going to get away with hiding the institutional racism that exists in the NHS. And then last year, the Black director who has led on this RES programme for NHS England, she retired. She then undertook an interview, a retirement interview with the Health Service Journal. And they asked her, they said, you know, this RES programme, can you see it delivering on race equality in the next decade? This is what she said. So I need to read it because I'm going to quote what they said she said. Not a hope in hell of NHS achieving race equality in a decade despite efforts. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. She was retiring, so she could now tell us all the truth. And today, a colleague sent me an article in The Guardian. You know, the header of the article in The Guardian? Black surgeons promoted less than white colleagues in England. No surprises then. And this is but you know what's the most disheartening thing of all of this? And I've never really understood it. How our Black and minority ethnic staff who work in the NHS, who are discriminated against on a daily basis, sign up to the RES, participate, knowing the evidence and believing that one day it's going to deliver race equality for them. What kind of nonsense is that? There's one thing for us to challenge what the white man's doing to us. There's another thing for us to challenge what we're doing to ourselves. In response to the Black Lives Matter protests following the tragic death of George Floyd, Boris Johnson set up a commission, the Commission for Race and Ethnic Disparities. 12 of those people, only Boris Johnson could do it. 12 of those people on the commission were from a BME background, one white man. No, 12 on the commission, 11 from a BME background, only one white man. And they produced a report on the 31st of March this year. And I'm just going to read out a couple of the things that this report said, just to give you a flavour. It said, the commission has seen no evidence that the UK is institutionally racist. Second, the system in Britain is no longer deliberately rigged against ethnic minorities. Although disparities exist and are varied, very few of them are directly related to racism. Another one, for some of the historic experience of racism, the historic experience of racism still haunts the present, and there was a reluctance to acknowledge that the UK has become open and fairer, and the report speaks to a new period described as an era of participation. Oh, it's also wonderful. And he got 11 Black and minority ethnic people to tell us how wonderful the UK is and no institutional racism exists. The report makes 24 recommendations. 10 Downing Street has still not responded responded to a report that was published on the 31st of March this year, despite all the uproar about that report, the most discredited social report ever, but it hasn't responded. It hasn't responded because institutional racism means absolutely nothing to them. And of course, don't have to worry, because we've got the gatekeepers in position to stop any progress being made. And how can it be? One of the recommendations for the report is that the system should give more support to the RES program. Why, it says? Because it's an important measure of fairness in the NHS. A system where every year it has failed. Even the all-party parliamentary committee led by Jeremy Hunt in December admitted that the RES had failed. It wasn't, very successful. And yet here we have a report saying this should be the way forward. We're asked tonight, is institutional racism dead or alive? Ladies and gentlemen, all the evidence shows it is very much alive. It's far from dead, and it's having a devastating impact on our quality of life. I'll just end with me. My fight for racial justice in the NHS will come as no surprise to you, made me a target. Over the years since 2004, when I decided to pick up the mantle, I felt very blessed to have reached where I did. Needed to give something back to my community, including a local school in Brixton that I taught at voluntary for 3 years. I became a target, and it meant that I had to lodge 6 employment tribunal claims between 2004 for racial discrimination victimisation, 2004 and 2017. I won 3 of those cases of racial discrimination and victimisation, but I lost 3. On the 1st of April 2017, a new chief exec took over, Marion Griffiths, took over the trust in Brighton. 1st of April 2017. By the 25th of April, I had a letter from the Deputy Chief Executive saying that he needs to speak to me because one of my claims was in the Employment Tribunal for discrimination victimisation based on the outcome of the disciplinary that they had subjected me to, which meant I got a final written warning. So that was a claim before the courts. I discussed it with them. It finished, so there was nothing to discuss. So by the 8th of May, the chief exec said she wasn't satisfied with my response to her deputy, so she wanted to meet with me. And by the 28th of June, I was dismissed, but they made me work my notice, so I didn't leave until the 27th of September. And so I had another claim for unfair dismissal. I had a claim for unfair dismissal, victimisation and whistleblowing. So we ended up with a situation in the tribunal where I had 2 claims related to my disciplinary outcome. And the way in which, because of the way in which the tribunal has handled those claims, it meant that I'd been denied my right to a fair trial. I then went through all the courts and tribunals in the land, because you have to. I've exhausted the Employment Appeal Tribunal, the Court of Appeal. I wrote to the Supreme Court. They said they weren't open to me because the Court of Appeal rejected my appeal against the lower court's decision. And now it's led to me lodging a claim in the European Courts of Human Rights. I've gone all the way to the top. But I've taken it all the way, but this isn't just about me. The decision I had to take because somebody's got to do it. We've all got to stand together and do it. We can't just run away from the discrimination that we've been saying. It's not been easy by any means, and I'm no hero and no whatever. It's been one of the most challenging things, as you can imagine. And my employment tribunals, I'll end with this, over the years, has resulted in my name, my reputation, and everything I've worked hard for being trashed by the tabloid press, all coordinated, of course. So I'm fighting for my integrity as well as everything else. And for the first time, given now that I've exhausted all the courts and tribunals in this land, I've set up a website. And that website details, including the lies that were told by the judges, details everything that has happened in my case. So when you read what you read about me in the tabloid press, I'd like to invite you to read what I say on my website about what they say. But through the website, I've also launched a crowdfund appeal to help cover my legal expenses because I've gone all the way. Can I say what my website details?
Yes,
my website details is www.justiceforvivian.org, and Vivian is spelled as well, you see it on the screen, Vivienne. So www.justiceforvivian.org, and I have a crowdfund appeal to help with my legal expenses. Because if my claim is accepted by the European Court of Human Rights, it will blow open the fact, like we said earlier, the Lamy report, the way in which the judicial system itself disadvantages us, and it needs to be exposed. And I am actually represented by an international lawyer from the Eastern Europe bloc. And it was divine intervention, how he came into my life. I can't tell that story, but even when I think about how he has come to represent me, it blows me away. He's done a fantastic submission for Europe, and I'm only praying that we do get justice for me and justice for us. Thank you so very much.
Well, we thank you, Sister Vivian. We thank you so, so much. You know, it's, you know, something that we all ought to be doing, standing up for ourselves, standing up for our people. But, you know, as you've highlighted and as our brother Geb has highlighted in the situation that he described, so many of our people seem to rather, you know, put their head under a rock and just hope that, you know, the problem will go away. And that we can maybe pray our way, you know, into, you know, a different sort of world. And that's not going to happen. And our history is testimony of the fact that it's those who are prepared, you know, who have made up in their mind that they want to make the change are the ones that tend to bring about the change. Dr. Abu, let me bring you in this at this stage, my brother, to open up the discussion that we're going to have in response to the presentation from our brother Geb and our sister Dr. Vivian, you know, whose experiences they've been sharing with us.
Good family, you know. I hear what Brother Geb and Dr. Vivian has said, you know. And we have to define racism as energy snatching. We as African people, we put out a certain energy. You understand? You know, and they can't control that energy. You understand? You know? They would like to call Dr. Vivian to their level. And this is what I'm saying. What we call racism really and truly is energy snatching. They call you, they govern you, they, you know, see. So if we, make I tell you something, right? Whether you're rich or whether you're poor as an African, you've been treated the same damn way. Because the energy, what I'm trying to tell you now, look at what Brother Geb going through in America to what you're going through. It's the energy they are trying to turn down because we have a set of people. I always said there's a certain type of European that has been terrorizing the world for years. I never say all of them, you know, I said there's a certain type, you know, and if we don't understand that, you know, they're energy snatchers. They get us to even turn down our own energy. They give us gifts to turn down our energy. They love our music, but hate the singers. Think about it, you know. When we, you know, your story, Dr. Vivian, you know, is similar to K. Johnson. K. Johnson put in a brilliant proposal for the African children and give it to the Department of Education. And you know what that Goa, when name Michael Goa, I don't know, say when don't go to Rati do all hell, you know, if with a name like that, you know, see it, you know, say that's too good. That is too good for the African people. Yeah? And neither Lamy nor Abbott or none of them never stand up and said, what are you saying? You know, all the things then where we sit and hear them talk about, oh, Abbott said that. If the party don't nudge them to say it, them can't say it. Right down to when Dawn speak out with and call Barris a liar. If the party don't tell her to say that she couldn't say that, or then deselect her, we got to realize that we can never go into those places to inspire them. You understand? You know, when we go into those places that turn down our energy. You understand? What I'm trying to make you understand, you know, and it's right in front of our face, but we are in denial, you know. Send out Michael in the morning and Michelle come back. You know, this is what they do to us. You understand? They turn us into alternative from our original gifted gift that we have to bring to the world. You understand? So people like Dr. Vivian and Brother Geb and others, they don't see them as what them call it, them have a name for it like one of us. Because them always use that word. Oh, you're one of us, you know, and you're different from that word. You understand? You know, and they will say that. Yo, you're not like that one, you know, but you're not. You're you. And this is what them want us to be. Something that we are not. You know, and a lot of us buy into it, sis. A lot of us buy into it because I will keep on saying that. As Sister Shanice said, you know, in the white supremacy argument, that's why I call it a privilege. You know, a lot of us are a junkie to white privilege, and we will kill one another to live like them. You understand? And this is what we have to get out of and realize that you're going to have many Brother Geb and many Dr. Vivian in spring up to see that, you know, we need justice instead of assuming this injustice pool because it allows us to do good butterfly. But at the end of the day, we end up dead as right to do like. You understand? You know, we got to look at ourselves. You understand? And realize that the energy that comes from us, that is why Britain can call itself great. You understand? And these Europeans can stand and say that they are first of certain things, you know? So we's all we have, you know? And anytime we start to turn that behavior upon one another, then I'm telling you, look at the health. When I look at a lot of us that work in the system and ignore their people, look at their health. You understand, you know? You know, I'm roughly the same age as Diana. And look at her health. You understand? This is what we have to understand. The energy, when you have been sucked so much and you don't understand that. I'm telling you. But give thanks, Sister Vivian. You're beautiful. You know, it seems that, you know, they're not sucking your energy that much. You understand? And you can hold on strong. Brother Gabe, hold tight. Sister Shanice, stay beautiful. And to all our panel members, remember, the more good thoughts and goodness that we move towards our people is the more healthier we will become. Voodoo.
Voodoo, rise up, Dr. Abu. You know, stand with you on all of that you said there. And Dr. Vivian, just want to let you know that we're standing with you, my sis. We want to thank you as well. Let me just remember to thank you, you know, for that incredible report that you put together. That was outside of your work remit. You did that from your heart for your people, you know, in the hope that by bringing about the information, it would bring about change and improvement, you know, for job opportunities for our people. But instead, it made you a target. And, you know, your life now, your career, you know, some would say ruined, some would say ended, but some would say, you know, your purpose came into fruition. And, you know, the difference that you are, you know, making right now. And I think we need to give more publicity to your report. I wasn't aware of that report that you've done. I think we all ought to know those statistics, all need to be talking about it. And you need to get the credit and the kudos where that's due. And I think you should be setting up an agency to actually analyze, the data of a whole range of public institutions and private sector organizations. Yeah, remember where you got the idea from? Set that up, and they all need to be exposed. You've got an incredible range of skills and talents there, my sis. And if we could have you heading up an agency with a group of very talented A-level degree students and others who want to learn some of those skills and can help with, the compilation and analysis of the data, this information is hard information that's absolutely needed. And it's hard hitting, and it's dealing with the truth and reality. My sis, you've got an incredible range of skills there, and nothing that they throw at you can take that away from you. And I think even private organizations, big and bossy, would even want to employ you to challenge you to come in to try and prove that racism doesn't exist within their companies so that they can get a gold star. I think we need to start something around this exposure. So all kudos and credit to you, my sis, on that report, and we stand with you. As for our people who see what's going on and refuse to stand with you in the workplace, look how many Africans there are that work within the NHS and the UKKK. It's not like the probation service that Brother Geb talked about where he is, where we're almost non-existent. And then of those who are there, what is the mindset? Where is the mind of our people? Where is that spirit to want to bring about change so that future generations don't have to suffer, the way that we suffer within these institutions? What is it with our people? I'm going to quickly go over to the chat now and bring in some of the comments that our viewers have been making. And panelists, please, feel free to look in the chat and pull out any comments that you might want to address. So let me just quickly pull out a few at random. So we've got Brother Kwame Ossie in the house. Rise up, Brother Kwame, a regular caller to the Big G Galaxy. Alfie, we always bringing in lots of great information. He's in the house. He's in the audience today. And he says, the UKKK was founded on anti-African racism of the highest order, namely wickedly enslavement and colonialism. Wicked people, and they have the audacity to go all over the world talking about equality. Absolutely right. The hypocrisy of it. Here we are, to those who are outside the UKKK and believe, the rhetoric that they go around the world preaching as if they are, in a position to lord over all the other countries in terms of their human rights abuses and their inequalities and injustices. We're exposing what's going on here in the UKKK, and they need to get their own house in order before they go anywhere. Absolutely agree with you on that. Let's see what Montu is saying. Montu is saying that a lot of our Asian empires were not based on violence, but on trade. Only a few involved violence, and that was because of external forces. Yeah, so making a clear distinction there between how we as Africans expanded back in the day in compared to the way that European or white empires expanded. They expanded based on violence, savagery, bombs, etc. But our expansion was based on trade. Absolutely agree with you on that, Montu. Let's see what Lioness is saying. Lioness is saying, I think the racism was in fact that they were trying to make us the face of it. They were trying to make us the face of racism. Well, obviously there it depends on your definition of racism, or their definition of racism. Montu saying that the belief that is that racism is based on power. No, it is not a belief that racism based on power. We believe that racism is based on power. You have to be in a position of power in order to be racist. Because if you're not in a position of power, like our race isn't in a position of power, we can have our prejudices, but we certainly can't, impact on vast numbers of people to the extent that their institutions and organizations are. This one is saying, Ace is saying to you, my sis, don't ever give up the fight. Yeah, Ace, if you're standing with our sister, as we all are, we will be able to give her some of our energy to keep on fighting. And, you know, gotta tap into those range of skills that our sisters has, which I think is being wasted on this country as well. And, you know, but, you know, let's bring in just maybe 2 more comments, and then we're going to go over to our brother Geb. And Bradley is saying, fantastic, Dr. Vivian. I was curious about the details of Black and South Asian promotion and inequalities. South Asians appear to be doing just fine in the NHS, and more Asians seem to hate Black people as well. I'll ask you to comment on that just a second. Queenie is saying, working for the NHS is stressful, especially when you're dealing with microaggressions every minute and every second of your shift. Fireborn. We have a sister who clearly works in the NHS and is experiencing racism on a daily basis at a micro level every minute. Wow, wow, wow. But let's go back to the point that Bradley is making, an inquiry about the South Asian community. They're obviously a people of colour, but seem to be doing quite fine. What's your take on that, please, Dr. Vivian?
It's very true. The differences in the NHS are really quite stark. See, one of the reasons as well is the Asians will look out for each other. So when the job opportunities come up, they will line up their own people. It's no coincidence that you end up with certain departments in NHS organisations where a significant number of the people working, when you've got a consultant who's Asian, are from an Asian background. But we as Black people, we don't do the same thing. We don't look out for our own. If anything, we drag each other down. When we reach a certain level, we sort of think, well, we don't want another person to come and occupy the same position as us and take away, you know, the limelight that we've been able to attract for ourselves. So there is, and of course, if the group of people actually realise that they can benefit from the system, allowing them to be promoted to the disadvantage of others, they're going to take it, aren't they? You know, it's this self-promotion and self-preservation. And the system plays off that. They know that there are differences there's even differences between Black Africans and Black Caribbeans working in the NHS. We talk about us all being Africans, but the subtle differences are there. And they, you know, they need to be addressed. We need to be open and transparent about them. So it's true, it does exist, and the system makes the most of it, because even the government's CRED report, if you read that report, it talks about certain groups of ethnic groups doing better than other groups. And then it says, well, if those groups can succeed, there must be something wrong with the Blacks that are not succeeding. When the system is rigged against us, but then we're blamed for not making the progress, if that makes sense.
Makes absolute sense, my sis. And I will add that the system and the white race see us as a threat, but they don't see the Asians as a threat. So they will allow them through the door, but they'll close the door in our faces. But let's go over to Brother Geb. Thanks everyone in the chat. Please keep your comments coming. And there's people in the chat, my sis, who are saying that we stand with you. They're thanking you for what you're doing and giving you encouragement and support. You know, thank you, family. Make sure that you've got a note of her website address and that you don't leave her hanging, family. Let's, everybody that watches this, let's all support her. Let's all check in on her. Let's send her emails and messages now and again and just saying that, you know, wait, we've got her back and we support. Okay. Brother Geb, wow, wow, wow. You know, you sat and you've listened to the sister, our doctor's story. You've got your own huge challenges in the USA. We're hearing about institutionalized racism from the USA to the UKKK within employment. Let's go back to you, my brother, for more thoughts and opinions.
So, Hotep again, family. Let me just again say to Dr. Vivian, I really appreciate the position that you've taken. But I want to talk about our individual responsibility in all of this. You know, we know that white people, they will accept us if we can be managed, manipulated, malleable, and measured. Those four basic characteristics: managed, manipulated, malleable, and measured. And if we sit outside of that box, there's going to be an issue. And so when those of us who we see get into high places, you need to understand, and I say this respectfully, not disrespectfully, you need to understand that those people meet those characteristics. And we're all familiar with that toy, the Jack in the Box, when you wind it up and you wind it up and you wind it up and it pops out and it scares you. When we as a people get there, white people understand all they need to do is to reward us so they can put us back in the box. And the more they reward us, the more we stay in the box. So I said that to say that it's up to us to stop taking the rewards. You know, this whole thing started from the idea of classical conditioning. How can they, this is why psychology and the mind is so important. One of the things that you hear Dr. Abu Riptata continually say, is white privilege addiction and the fact that we have never received any counseling. If we can begin to counsel ourselves to get our mind straight, we can really bypass all of that stuff. Now, we quit our wives. We divorce our wives. We walk out on our own kids. We beat our children, but we won't do a thing to that beast. Something is wrong with that.
Yeah.
We refuse to divorce the beast. The minute that I quit that job, they were powerless. You know why? Because I quit them. We need to quit them. I'm going to say that one more time. Africans need to quit the white man and join with each other. And so that's how I'm going to address that comment.
Well, am I on? Yep. Great. Well, thank you so much. Absolutely agree. That is the way forward for us as Africans. We need to quit the white man and relinquish that, what was it Dr. Abu would say, that to whiteness, the addiction. Get over the addiction to whiteness. Hey, family, as you can see, we've got Brother Jammers in the house and we've got Sister Sheila in the house. Rise up. Let's bring them in now. First of all, Brother Jammers, hopefully you were listening there offline before you joined us. We want to hear what you have to say, my brother, because I know you know you've got a message for us.
Greetings, family. Just like to say excellent presentations and like from our guests today. You know, it's been very insightful, and we really do need to be listening to what's been said and addressing this issue. The first thing what we have to remember, and I think we have to start to use our ears and listen. You know, this is what we really start to need to do, and speak what we hear. You know, and act on what we hear, because otherwise we're going to be deaf, dumb, and blind. You know, so let's start to listen and open up our mind. They say we're living in where? A human race. Right, let's listen to the sounds. What is this race about? Hue. So hue is the result of an intelligence that gives us a mark, that gives us a birthright. Because our birthright is not a passport, it's not a piece of paper. We can see which part of land we come from by this mark given to us by the sun, and it shows that we are the owners of the land. So hue is the propensity of your melanin that gives you this mark of distinction, yeah, of ownership of the land with the most resources. It's not a piece of paper. This hue, and that's what we have. Hue. Other people have a pigmentation. We have a complexion. So we're so complex they don't understand how complex we are. We have a complexion. They have a pigmentation and a pig mentality. Okay. So hue. We are the people of hue. So you better know who you are. Yeah, by your hue. Man, race. Okay. Race. There's no color in that word. You know, this is what you used to do at school. Race is a competition. It's not based on color. Color is the result of the people who are in power in the race, who win the competition. Then they can affect what's in their mind on everybody else. So we're looking at color as, oh, it's a color. No, it's nothing to do with color. It's about competition, as in school. A race is in competition. What is the race about? The next word in the human race is the word man. What does man mean? Man means hand. That's what it means. It means a hand, as in the word manicure. Women manicure their feet. Manacles in the olden days is what they put on their hands to stop you from using it. A manual car is what you use with your hands. So man means hand, all hands on deck. So the race is for the human. So the hands of the man of hue. So basically they're racing after you because you have hue to use your hands against you. What is the word hand significant? Because if I can use your hands, I don't need to do no work. So their race is to use us to work for them. And this is the position that they want to keep us in. Once again, we're not in the race. The race is, they're racing after you because you're first already. So everybody is racing against you. That's why it's called a human race. The race is after the man with hue. Yeah? Which is us. You know, so we're not in the race. We're already first. You know, so what are you doing if you're first and you're just looking behind you and joining in them who's racing after you? Then you're joining the race after your own self. You know? So the next thing with this whole thing, human race, once again, is a race after the man with you, after his hands, so they can use us against them. Where is the main race instigated? Britain. What does that mean? Where everything be written. Where everything be written, where the rules and the codes have been put down. The great be written. This is the place where everything is instigated. Why is everything written here? So everything can be retained. What does tain mean? To be held. So everything here is be written, to be held. And when you're in the held state, you can't move nowhere. Like in the word contain, something is held with. Retain, something is held back. Detain at school, if you didn't do the right thing, you was held down. So this is the place where everything be retained. What does tain mean? Tain is a holding device. Another word for holding device is the word ten. So it's even in the sound be retained. As in your hand is tender. If you sprain your hand or sprain your wrist, it's tender. You have to hold on to it. If you have a tendency, that's a way of behavior that you held on. So basically everything be written to keep us in a holding device. So we keep our position so everybody can come past us in their competition. So once again, everything is held. Where is everything held in this great be retained? In number 10 Downing Street. This is where everything be held. So once again, 10 is a holding device for us. So this place, everything be retained. And this is how they catch us with the education. Education, ed means to come out. Duke or juice means to lead. Reduce, seduce. So educating, in the word education is the word juice. The old word for education was a place where people were just a place of leisure. It wasn't a place of making your mind develop. Okay. It also, juice comes from ducare, which means the duke's money as well. So basically inside the word education is the word ducare, duke, which is the ducat. So basically you've been trained to be somebody else's money. That's what education means. You become the duke's money. That's why they say talented. because talent in ancient Romans means money. So when they say you're talented, they see you as a pound sign. You see, so we've been duped from taking our position as first. We don't behave like we're first anymore, you know, and they've tricked us by wearing their costumes and using their sounds to make us think that they're in the position of first. But we have the mark of distinction already. We have our birthmark. So once again, everything be written, everything be retained, and be retained means in the education system, you are trained. What does a train do? It follows the lines. So basically, this is why everything be written in lines. So we follow the lines. And when everything be lines, we are not being blind. And you have the inclination of the incline because you're held by the pen. And when you're held by the pen, you end up in the pen. This is what's happening to our young stars. They're ending up in the pen because they're thinking from the ink, from the pen. Look at the word think. Inside the word think, you see the word ink. The ink comes from the pen. So you're inclined by the incline. And depending on your dependency on the pen, you can end up in the deep end, ending up in a sentence. And you're sentenced by the pen. And that's why they call it a brain cell, because you're held by the cell in the brain to be reigned over. That's why they train over you. So that's why your eyes are not open, so you can't see. So we have to move away from this racism, because racism is not African sound. It's not African concept. You can't see, feel, or touch it. Where is it? You can't see. I can't see it. It's not. It's an abstract. So they've given us something to think about that you can't see, feel, or touch. And this in law means that you move from a lower charge, because you have it's a low. Basically, if somebody hits you, it be called as assault. So you will be in law. The judgment will be on an assault charge. If you move that to a racism charge, it's no longer the hit that you get. It's about a state of mind, the way the man's thinking, and this is an implication now. It's no longer something that you can actually have an active claim against. Now you have to try to fight against a thought process, and the thought process is something you can't see, feel, or touch. So therefore now it's open now to interpretation. And where do you go to get that from? You go to get that from to somebody's the superior of the person who put you there in the first place. So basically the one who's oppressed you, you're going back to him to try and get a decision. Because racism, once again, is not African concept. It's not based on color. It's based on a competition. You know, so it's a construct that you can't fight against, physically fight against. And once again, it's a state that's been created to us to think about. So the only thing that you can do with racism is go back to the person who put you in that position and beg him to give you something. In nature, that you check where racism comes from. It's not African concept. It's a construct that's given us to think about. So we fight for a false interpretation of thought. When in nature, and what the real deal of what everything is and how we created Wall Street, it was nothing to do with racism. It's a natural phenomenon called preference. It's called preference. Every species on the planet, except for us, think about preference. All bees stick together. They don't go to the ant's nest to get advice. They don't go to the ant's nest for decisions. The birds don't go to the fish to get advice. They find themselves drowning. So every species on the planet has a natural preference. This is what we have to understand. Preference is when you prefer something that you assimilate to, that you're used to, that you understand. So when you know the behavior about somebody you feel comfortable with. This is what we used to do. We used to prefer one another and come together. We prefer to educate ourselves. We prefer to defend ourselves. We prefer to get advice from ourselves. We prefer to clothe ourselves. We prefer to feed ourselves. We prefer to make decisions from ourselves. And this is the way that we used to think naturally, is preference. And when you understand preference, then you understand it's a natural phenomenon. Killers would like to have another set of killers around them. Murderers would like to have another, because they know that they can trust them to kill. You know, when they have something around them, when if ants have a bee come in, they're going to be susceptible at being to keep that bee in a certain position. It's never going to get in a position of power. So when we understand preference, we'll understand that they prefer to me amongst themselves. And if they allow us into their camp, we're only going to get so far in their camp. If we understood this mentality, we wouldn't bother, as our learned friend was saying, we wouldn't bother entertain them. We would keep amongst ourselves and do for ourselves. So this is what we have to do. With president preference comes prejudice. So prejudice, once again, if you prefer to be amongst yourself, if anybody else comes in amongst you, you're going to have a prejudice again. You're going to be doing something to hold them back. So we have to move away. If we're going to strive as a people, we have to go away from this constant. All of these words that they've given us to think about are not our phenomenons. They're not designed for us to win. They're designed for us to think about, to put us in a zone of a thought process. So we, once again, we have to start to prefer, like, to be on shows like this. We have to start to prefer to invest our money in ourselves, because when we give it away to someone else, we don't know where it's going, and it's more likely going to be used against us. So first, I'd like to say once again, human race is a race against you. You know, it's a race against the man like you. We better understand that everybody's coming to use your hands against you. You know, we're living in a place called Britain, where everything be written and everything be held, everything retained. Once again, 10 also means 10, which is a holding device. Everything is held at number 10 Downing Street. They also say that you use 10% of your brain. 10 means what is held, what they've given you to think about from the pen, all these concepts that are constructed by them. So our brain is held in a held state. So we don't use our inclination to deconstruct all these fantasies that they've given to think about. Love, which is a fantasy, their religion, another holding device. All these concepts, they're not African sounds. So I prefer to be amongst you, and I prefer to listen to what all the arguments and the family's got to say. Thank you. Keep your eyes open.
We thank you, Brother Jammers. Oh my gosh, you've given us so much to think about this evening. Family, we're going to have to watch that segment over and over again, you know, so that we get absolutely everything that our Brother Jammers, you know, was talking about there. We've got someone in the chat, I think, was hearing you for the first time. They're like, oh, I'm confused. I don't know what's being said here. Listen over and over again and you will get it. Oh my days. And you're right. We've got to, you know, exit ourselves from, you know, this mad matrix, this mad construct that we're all part of and happily going along with, and wondering why we're not getting, you know, any satisfaction from it. And Brother Jammers, you know, the race is about other races racing against us, and not us not realizing that we're in a race. You know what? I've got a little something on that. I'll have to drop it one of these days. Rise up for that. Now, before I bring in Sister Sheila, I just want to bring in a little quote from our late great scholar, John Henry Clark. He said, if there's one thing that we need to get through our minds and keep it there, he said that nothing that ever came from the European mind was ever meant to do anything but facilitate European domination over Africans. And there's no exception. No exception. He also said that the role of the institutions in a dominant society is to reflect the power that controls that society. So, you know, there we have it. These institutions in America, he said, you know, were against us as a people, are against us as a people. And if we even expect those institutions to reform themselves because of us, you know, then basically, you know, we're living in an illusion. Yeah, those institutions are doing precisely what they were designed to do. I've got off what he was saying now, and I'm saying they're doing exactly what they were designed to do, and that is they were designed to oppress us, to continue to dominate us, to take over our land, to take over our energy, to utilize our hands, as Brother Jammers was saying. We've brought hook, line and sinker into their miseducation system that just drains our skills, our talent, our energy, our brain and everything for their upliftment and their advancement to our detriment, when in fact what we really ought to be doing is running in our own lane. So, you know, if I got time, I'll bring in my little clip there. Yes, we should be running in our own lane. You know, you've got the Chinese in their lane, the Europeans in their lane, the Africans in their lane. Well, we ought to be in our lane, but we've got the Africans in the European lane, in the white lane. We've got the Africans in the Asian lane. We've got the Africans running for the Chinese, running for the for everyone else, and putting all their energy and effort into it, and forgetting about our lane and what we ought to be doing for ourselves. rise up, brother jammers, every time. Sister Sheila, welcome, my sis. I'm so glad that you've managed to make it home so that you can, from work, so that we can get hear a little bit from you.
Yes, I was not meaning it. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. I give thanks to be here. It has been a battle to get here, but I decided I am coming.
Yeah.
And just to go straight into this topic, I, first of all, rise up all the panelists, rise up the viewers and listeners. We give thanks for committing this time and energy to be here. 15 years ago, I decided to run in the race that is not for our people. And this was by way of applying for a scholarship to come and study in the UK. And they were only giving 2 scholarships for the whole of Africa. Whole of Africa, 2 scholarships. And it was a battle. You had to fight for this scholarship. And fighting, we fought. And I was one of the 2. So for the 2, there were 2 people of each being brought to the UK to fight it out here. So they would bring 4 people in the UK, 2 for each scholarship to fight it out. So I was among the 2 that came to fight it out here. So I was fighting with another African for this scholarship. And I fought and I lost. Anyway, I was still determined to go to university in the UK. I could not be deterred from that. I had to be in that race. So I entered the UK university only to find that there was so much money in the university for their home students that they were begging people to come and take the money. Whereas they had only given 2 to Africa, but there was so much money here. Everyone was running to sponsor the home student. That is the UK student. Was the problem? There was no problem of money. 15 years later, to last week, I work somewhere with with minors, and occasionally they have competitions. So there were 19 children, many of them from ethnic minorities, as they call them. And they were competing for this one place, 19 children competing to this one place to go and win something. I don't want to speak about what it is they're winning because of confidentiality clauses and all that. However, I am of the knowledge that the organization has the money to support all the 19. But however, they are putting this aspect that there is only one place and they have to compete for this one place. So I did speak to the bosses and I said, I myself am seeing so many that can qualify for this, and it will be very unfair to pick only one when I can pick almost 9 or 10 that are at the same level. And they said the aspect of competition cannot allow to pick more than one. So because of competition, they only have to pick one. So this has created such antagonism amongst them because they are fighting for this one place. And I am going to play this show to them with the words of Brother Jambas and words of Brother Gabe, who is saying, cut out of the race, step out of it. It's not your competition, step out of it. And this now brings me to the institutional racism that is everywhere, especially in the workplace, but it's literally everywhere. The system is not geared to promote everyone, to support everyone. It's a competition. And it is the one that can step on the others the most that gets to go to the top. Now, for people like us Africans who come from an abundance mindset, whereby we know there is enough for everyone, it becomes very difficult to stitch up your brother to get there. You know, it becomes very difficult to actually get involved in these shenanigans so that you're at the top when you know there is room for all of us. You know, the Ubuntu, that's the African way. There is room for all of us. Yes. So when you're telling us that, oh, there is money, there is space, there's energy for everyone, but you're only going to take one, that is scarcity mindset. Scarcity mindset is not an African mindset. Mm-hmm. We were people whereby nature provided abundantly for us. We were not in the caves whereby we had to eat each other to survive, whereby we had to scrape for things from ice to survive. No, we are not people like that. We are people that had enough. We are people that when people are passing by the road going somewhere, We said, come, the fruit trees are yielding. Take as much fruit as you want. Go. And if visitors came, you gave them food and say, take this away, eat, finish. And when you finish, take it to the people that didn't come, the one that remained at home. So these concepts, whereby we have to fight for that space, for that one space, when we know there is enough to accommodate all of us, it is very disharmonious to our system. It's disagreeable with us, and it causes imbalance within us. And what it also does, it makes us attack each other. And it's easier for us to attack a fellow African than attack the other person. So you find even in the workplace, we are stitching each other up so that, we rise up, because we've been told there's only one person that can be fronted to go forward. And then still in this institutional racism, in the UKK, there is something called the Diversity and Inclusion Form. It's a form that when you're applying for a job, you're told that this form, the interviewers are not going to see it. So in that form, you're required to write what ethnic background you come from, but you're told that it will be put away from the interviewers. However, when you're tendering in your application, job application, you're sending with that form to one place. So you want to tell me that that one place, they will find time to sieve out and say, let this go and this not go? Having said that, our names reveal where we're coming from. Having said that, our qualifications as well, for many of us that have come here as immigrants, when we write where we grew up, where we were born, the nationalities we are holding, the universities we went to back home. And it's very clear that in that form, in the application form itself, your CV gives you away. And by virtue that this documentation is part of the application, it just shows you the institutional racism that is there. And then many workplaces, again, have a percentage of people. They say that they want the workplace to reflect the people out there. So like you find in the UK, there is only 4% Black people. So that means in any workplace, they want only 4% Black people, because they say they want it to reflect the society out there. So they would say they want only 4% Black people. And then you find all those 4% Black people would be at the entry level in the job. They would have satisfied that 4%. They don't have to be at the top of the management. So you find when there is the Black person, for them to go up to the top of the management, this scarcity mindset comes where they say, we can only take one, we cannot take very many of them. So if you look at the way the system is designed, it is designed with us to fail. It is designed with the Black person not to thrive. So for that reason, rather for you to keep fighting to stay in a place where you are not wanted, we should normalize leaving places whereby we are not wanted. We should normalize turning our backs and going away from places we are not wanted. Because there is no need to fight so hard to be in a place you are not wanted. Because after fighting, it's like fighting so hard for a wedding. And then after the wedding, there's the marriage you have now to live with. So you'll fight so much to get to this place you're not wanted. And you then get in there, but then you have to live there. Then what happens next? It just becomes like you're pushing a donkey uphill. So I echo the words of my brothers and sisters that are saying that we have to normalize leaving these places. They were not designed for us to thrive, and we are not going to thrive when we live in such places. I give thanks.
We give thanks to you, Sister Sheila. Thank you so much, for making it in so that you could contribute to the discussion today. As always, words of wisdom and a lot of food for thought. Family, we're going to have to just watch this show back again and again, to hear all there is to hear from our family. Time is running and passing, and I'd like to give our guests, a few minutes each. So that they can wrap up, and then I'd like to give, our resident guests at least another minute. So certainly hope that you're going to stay over. We're going to go over probably 5-10 minutes or so. Brother Geb, please, let's bring you back in for some concluding remarks, my brother. A lot has been said, a lot has been discussed. What's your view now in light of the discussion that we've been having today, please?
So again, Hotep family, and again, I appreciate, and I know we change words, so I appreciate this forum. I've had an opportunity to see and listen to everybody on this forum before, and I honor everybody on the forum. I did hear about Dr. Vivian's issue with racism several weeks ago, so I had an opportunity to hear her. I just want to the Sister Sheila who just spoke. You know, she used the word mindset, and again, that is where I am laser focused on. I'm laser focused on our mind, the conditioning that has occurred to us, and the lack of counseling that we need that we haven't received. As a people, you know, we need to be validated and we need to understand that we are Africans. And let me be clear, they are beasts. It is unnatural for us to do what we've been doing to each other. It is an unnatural act for a brother to kill his brother, for a sister to kill her sister, for a husband to beat his wife, for a wife to beat the children. Those are all unnatural acts, but yet we subject ourselves to the beast, to these white people. We bow down to our enemy. We are a set of sick African people, and we need desperately to emancipate our minds so we can get back to a healthy, sane mind, not an insane mind. It is insane that we continue to do the same thing time and time and time again. That is the definition using the Eurocentric framework of insanity. I love all my brothers and sisters. I appreciate the time. And I can tell you with all sincerity, this Brother Geb, is willing to die for this mission.
Ashe.
We honor you, we respect you for the stance that you've taken, my brother, and for the great fight that you're waging in the USA to challenge racism where you are. You know, my brother, we stand with you. And thank you so much for sharing your story today. Dr. Vivian, we stand with you as well. Let's hear some concluding remarks from you, my sis. A lot has been said and shared since you last spoke.
Yes, and I've found the various contributions most interesting. And, you know, I totally agree that the way forward is for us to come out of the system and stop fighting. And you know, and we're fighting a system to be accepted, but they don't want to accept us. The only thing I would say is that I don't think we're in a position right now to come out. To come out to what? You know, and there's another thing that worries me, because when we say about we're in this system and the system is against us, we totally get that. But we have this ideology, that actually the people, that the Africans and the Caribbeans are united and are ready to build. I'm not saying it can't happen. This is my personal opinion. I just think, and I was married to an African, I'm divorced. I was married to an African. I went to Africa. I faced more racism in Africa as a Jamaican that he married. So I'm talking from a real experience. And all I will say is, that is the ideal. Wouldn't it be nice, like you say, Brother Janis, for us to get to a point where, forget racism, we're talking about preferring our own. If I've understood you correctly, it's about where we used to be, it was just natural to prefer our own, to be with our own. But we've got a lot of work to do before we've reached that point where we've learned to accept each other, irrespective of the white man. And I may have a different view to all the panelists on that, but I think we're a long way off getting to a point where we can progress ourselves without out of a system, because the system has yet to be built. But I'm not saying it's not possible, because we're talented. We're far ahead of the rest. We're not in any race, we're ahead of the race. But we need to change our mindset if we are to progress in a system that's going to benefit our own. But it's been a great discussion. I've enjoyed every moment of it. Thank you ever so much for having me.
Dr. Vivian, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and for sharing your story and for the phenomenal works that you have been doing fighting racism within the NHS. We thank you, my sis. And although, you know, you personally have been victimized and daring to challenge the racism, I'm sure that as a result of challenging it, many Africans have actually benefited from your hard work, because they've probably opened up jobs and opportunities to try and prove that, you know, your statistics were wrong or that you were wrong. And I've certainly seen that myself, you know, from my own personal experiences of working in the public sector. But, you know, that's a whole nother story. But we stand with you, my sis. Please share your web address again, so that our family can know where they can go to find you, to offer you support, should they want to do so. And also just remind us that you do have a GoFundMe page as well, that you are, you know, calling on the community to kindly support in any way that we can, so that, you know, you can take your case all the way to Europe.
Thank you, Sister Shanice. So my website details is www.justiceforvivian.org. Vivian spelled as shown on the screen. www.justiceforvivian.org. And when you go onto that website, there will be a button that you can press to donate, and that will take you to the crowdfund page. And there I explain why I'm raising the money to cover my legal expenses. Your support would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
We thank you, my sis. Okay, and we will continue to follow your case, the progress of your case. So we will be inviting you back along your journey, my sis, and we journey with you. Yes, indeed. Brother Dr. Abu.
Yeah, man, Vodum family, Brother Gabe, Dr. Vivian, you know, him Jammers, Sister Sheila. We have to realize, you know, whosoever pay the piper call the tune. You know, if we don't have patience with one another, we become patient of others. You know, the whole thing about it, as Sister Vivian said, it's not an easy road, because all our life, every test that we do in life was to please a European, was to please them. You know, all the masters we have, all the certification we have, you know, but I give thanks that those that have it also know their purpose. You understand, you know? I always tell my children them that this is what require of the school, and this is what you require of yourself. You understand? You know, we can't just open them up like that, you know, because as I said, racism is so deep that we don't realize that our energy is drained. You know, when you do that amount of work and they take your work and glorify off it, and like said, you're an invisible person, that's your energy they're sucked in, and they've been doing it from the time we come in encounter with them. So as I said, I'd rather catch L with my African woman than drive Miss Daisy. You understand? This is what we have to feel. I have to feel comfortable that when I close my eye in the night, I am comfortable with my African woman. You know, it may not be easy, but I'll put up with that. And if we will put up with certain things, then we will reject what the European give us. You know, so I said, Voodoo Maya, more vibration to all our beautiful people, home and abroad.
Vodum, Dr. Abu. Come on, family, we need you to get some thumbs up. You know what's going on. We need some thumbs up. So please do make sure that you've logged in. And while you're there, if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe to the Sister Shanice Show channel. All right. Rise up, Dr. Abu. Thank you so, so much. And let's go over to Brother Jammers.
Boy, we're finishing already.
I know. What time you come?
I'm getting ready. I'm just getting warmed up, man. I'd like to thank our guests. Very, very insightful show. And that's it. We have to create platforms like this where we can disclose information like this. And just to endorse what's been said already, and just to once again, we're in a human race. The race is against us. All the concepts have been given us. It does make us mentally ill, but we're not ill. But thinking about what they've given us to think about will make us ill. Another thing, but we'll have to go into this on another time. Is they really like us? They just got a funny way of showing it, especially if you're not in the right state of mind. They're racing after our land. We turn our hat backwards, they turn their hat backwards. We talk a certain way, they talk a certain way. We walk a certain way, Look how much attention Usain Bolt gets. Look how much attention we get when we miss penalties. They really like us, but just like a child likes a plant, they like us so much they can destroy us. Look at the word like, which is L-I-K-E. When you reverse it, you'll see inside it means kill. So you can like so much you won't even kill it because you don't know how to handle it. Look at the word skill. Inside the word skill is the word kill. You see, basically, when we are around as the creators and the originators, and when they see who's first, we ignite certain chakras with them. And depending on the chakras we enhance, they will run after us or they will destroy us. So we have to be aware when we're around other people, the energy that we're transmitting, so we can see past the things that they've given us, past the constructs in our mind, so we can see what energies we're generating around other people. One last thing, and then I'll leave it at that. We've also been tricked into conversation with them. Forget about, can I say corona? Forget about corona. No, I won't say that. But the biggest virus that we have is conversation. We should not converse with anybody except the people we prefer. Adverse, adverts. Reverse, reverts. Converse, convert. So basically, they're giving us sensations to convert us to them. So we're not supposed to be taking in the sensation. Just like if ants go around bees, you better mind you get stung from the bee. You shouldn't be going around someone who's trying to use a sensation to convert you to their way of thinking to destroy your own self. Because remember, they're rating after you. To remember who you are and stay out of the race because you come first. That's why they have a first after you. But anyway, and that's why they have an obsession of like going to a mountain, canoeing down a waterfall, just to have that feeling for 1 second or for 1 millisecond. What it's like to be like us. That's what all the sports are about, just to have the feeling of what it's like for 1 second, to what we feel all the time. Anyway, I'd like to thank each and everyone. I don't want to take any more time up. I prefer to hear somebody else now. Thank you.
Oh, rise up, Brother Jammers. We could listen to you for hours. In fact, someone is in the chat was saying another hour. We keep it at 2 hours, or we try to, because we don't want to keep you away too long and drag you all away too long. But there's so much for us to talk about. Hence why we do these shows. Every strong, so much to talk about. Sister Afrojama in the chat was asking me to write up what I was talking about the race. In fact, I've got a little jingle about it, and let me play that now, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it. Panel members, please bear with us. Let's see if we can hear. Some of us, we're quick to use our skills and talents for those outside of our race. This is why I just want to rise up those who are using their skills and talents for our race and our people, because We are in a situation where we're running races. Each race are in their own lane, running their race. They're running their race for their political development. They're running their race for their economic empowerment. And they're running their race to make sure that they are the superpower, or they're the ones with the power that are making the decisions. So each race is in their lane. If you look at it athletically style, we're on that relay track. We got African race in one lane, we got the Europeans in another lane, we got the Asians in another lane, the Chinese are even in their own separate lane. Everybody's running their race in their lane. They're developing themselves economically, they're developing their country, they're protecting their land, they're protecting their resources, they're developing themselves, their security forces, militarily, economically, politically, culturally, spiritually, each in their respective lane, developing their nation for generations to come. But because of the destruction that we have experienced, we don't realize, some of us, that as a race we are racing against other races. And so some of we did there in the other race lane, them are developed for them lane, we are developed them politically, we are developed them culturally, we're giving them all of our skills and talents, our creativities and our investments, we're financing their initiatives, their projects and their programs, and then well done. Now when you look to the African lane, very little are going there, so, and we wonder why. People are pointing and say, look on the African lane, not now go on there. So that's because you're in the wrong lane. You're in the Chinese lane, I build up the Chinese lane. You're in the European lane, I build up the European lane. You build up the European family, you create family with the Europeans instead of your own people. So enough mix up of one. Time we realize that other races are racing against us and they're exploiting us for their own financial, economic and political gain. And we need to fix up and we need to focus on our lane and be doing what we can to develop our lane. We need to fix up and we need to focus on our lane and be doing what we can to develop our lane. And be doing what we can to develop our lane. Rise up, family. We do what we. That just came out one day when I was just on the radio, and so I just took that snippet from that there. But I'd like to leave you with that. We need to be doing what we can to develop our lane. Absolutely. And let's not wait until retirement years before we're prepared to speak up and speak out. We've lost Sister Sheila there, but on behalf of Sister Sheila, I just want to thank the audience for staying with us. I want to thank the panel members for their contribution to the discussion today. So family, more love, more strength, more power, more voodoo, and all being well, we will be Black Next Strong. Please tell a family member, please tell a friend, and get them to join us next strong. Sister Shanice out of here for now. One love.
What's up, family?
Hotel. Voodoo.